The third thing that I want to talk about, okay, is that when I was training the prisoners in the federal prison system, there was something that I noticed that the first couple of times it happened, I did not notice it, but after you train, enough people for over a decade, for 13 and a half years, it becomes very obvious pattern, okay? And for me, science is all about being able to repeat the same thing over and over, okay? So if you can't repeat it, then it's not scientific to me, okay? So I noticed that there was a lot of, when the drug war, the US drug war was at its peak, we had a lot of teenagers come into the prison system, including myself. When I came in, I was 18 years old, in case you guys didn't know that, for drugs, okay? When I got in there was a lot of teenagers in there, okay? So when I started training all these teenagers, I look around at all the older prisoners, and it was very distinct that all the black guys were bigger, stronger, and leaner, right? But one thing I noticed very quickly on when I started training the teenagers, right, was that a lot of the teenagers that came in that was at 18 years old like me, they came in and it did not matter if they were black or white or whatever ethnicity, Mexican, Asians, it didn't matter. I noticed that all the teenagers that came in that had a high school athletic background, meaning that if the teenage prisoner played sports in high school, whether it's basketball, wrestling, baseball, football, any type of traditional sport, traditional Western sport in high school, when I trained these athletic teenage prisoners, the results were very balanced, equal. In other words, the black athlete did not have the advantage anymore. If the teenage prisoner played sports in high school and he came in, no matter what ethnicity they were, I was able to get them to fairly equal strength. Okay? Very equal. I mean, the strength difference between them and the muscle size difference between them was negligible. You couldn't not look at them and say, oh, one guy was bigger and stronger than the other one or anything like that. Okay? If there was any difference, it was not significant enough to warrant you saying that one ethnic group was bigger and stronger than the other one. Okay? It was very consistent. If I trained a 160-pound guy to squat, 400 pounds, it was very, all the Mexican guys, all the Asian guys, all the black guys, white guys, they were able to consistently do that, right? So there was no way that you could say, I could say from the anecdotal evidence, from the field evidence that I got to say that, hey, this one teenage ethnic, black guy or white guy had the superior genetics, okay? And after doing this for over a decade, it dawned on me, I came up with the conclusion from my field research, right, that as long as you start training before you finish puberty, you have an opportunity to increase the quantity of strength fibers in your body. Not the size of the fibers, but the quantity of fibers. Now, there's been a lot of research in the strength and conditioning and athletic community that says that you cannot increase the quantity of fibers in your muscles, the quantity of the strength fibers. Remember, the strength fibers are the only ones that get bigger and stronger and helps you get faster. The endurance fibers, no matter how much you train them, they do not get bigger and stronger. They only get more efficient at processing fuel, okay? So you get more endurance, but you're not going to get any bigger and stronger, okay? So, for example, like a marathon runner, they have a lot of, they train their endurance muscles. That's why you never see a big, muscular a marathon runner. However, a sprinter trains mostly his strength fibers, which allows him to run fast. So you always see these really muscular sprinters. It's rare that you ever see a skinny, matter of fact, you never see a skinny sprinter at the college, pro, and Olympic level. They're all muscular and they're very strong, okay? Because most of the time they train their strength fibers, okay? So, back to what I was saying about the teenagers. The teenage athletes that train, from my field results, right, is that my conclusion from the research that I did with all these teenage prisoners is that the ones that trained early on in their life, they were able to increase the quantity of fibers regardless of what their previous parents' genetics were. So they could have came from weak parents, not very athletic parents. However, if they train when they're young, their body is able to adapt to the environment. Just like what Darwin said, of survival of the fittest, of how animals in nature adapt to the environment to survive. Well, if a child starts their athletic career early on, they're able to develop more of these fibers that the so-called superior black athletes have. Okay? So the point I'm making there is that if you start young, right, you have a better chance of equalizing and leveling the playing field if you start early on with your strength training and your weight training early on in your career, athletic career, okay? And don't put it off till later, okay? Because after you hit puberty, that's it. Your body's not going to create any more strength fibers, okay? And I know that there's been recent research that says that there's different ways that your body can create new fibers, but I'm telling you, from my field experience of training hundreds and hundreds of prisoners over a decade, okay, it's rare that I see an adult that has finished puberty, okay, be able to do that, okay? Whereas the teenagers that have not completed puberty yet, right, yes, they can, and I'm convinced of that, okay, because I've seen it. So somebody tells me that is not true, I'm not going to believe it because I saw it with my own eyes, okay? So I hope that this video has helped, you guys understand why black athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster, okay? That was the first thing we covered. And number two, right, that there's 6 other components to power and speed. There's 7 components. Having big muscles is only one of them. There's 6 other components that you need to be able to be good at to become the most powerful and fastest athlete that you can be. And third is that there is a way to level the playing field against black athletes, and that is to train young before you finish puberty. The younger that you start with strength training, the more an advantage you have to level the playing field against a black athlete. And for the parents that watch this, right, I encourage you, as soon as your child athlete is capable of following instructions, I would get them into weight training as soon as possible, okay? That's gonna get them the best thing. And keep in mind, guys, that if you're a young individual watching this and you're still going through puberty, just keep in mind that before you hit puberty and finish puberty, right, your body will grow more muscle fibers, but you won't see them, okay? That's another thing I forgot to mention, okay, is that when a young person grows more, the quantity of fibers, you will not see that until they hit puberty, okay? So you can have 2 kids training and the size difference is not that significant. However, if you look in the microscope inside their bodies, I almost guarantee you that the quantity of fibers in the consistently trained athlete will have more fibers. And when they hit puberty and then their body starts producing all that testosterone, boom, that's when all those muscle fibers will expand and you'll see a huge difference in size between the consistently trained athlete and the untrained athlete, okay? The untrained child. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope that I've given you everything that I've done research on to explain why black athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster and what you can do about it. And I hope you like this video. Hey, let me know what you think about it, please, no racial comments or slurs. Keep in mind, we got a lot of kids that watch this, and we want to give them a good, positive message. We don't want to do anything, leave a negative image in their mind. One of the things that I do believe in, because I live in America, I believe in free speech, right? So whatever you say, you're welcome to say it. All I ask is don't say nothing crazy and stupid, right? Keep things PG-13, so that when the kids watch this, early on when I first started making videos on YouTube, I was just cussing, using profane, all kinds of nonsense, right? But then I got a lot of comments, parents would email me privately and tell me, hey, the information you share is good, and it's helping our kids and everything, but, it'd be nice if you don't use all that profanity and keep it PG-13 so that our kids can watch it, and so without us being there, so, I'm asking you guys that if you guys leave comments or questions or anything like that, please keep it so it's PG-13 for all the kids out there, right? You know, one of the things that comes with free speech is that you're responsible for what you put out there. You know, the words that come out of your mouth, you take responsibility for it. That's free speech, okay? So the things that you put out there, you know, if it harms somebody else and it leaves a bad impression or negative impression on them, right? Please don't do that, okay? If you do, I'm forced to delete it, and I hate to do that because I believe in free speech, okay? So please make your point, and if you disagree with what I say in this video, make sure that you back it up with some scientific evidence. It doesn't have to be like empirical evidence. It can be anecdotal evidence, but provide some kind of evidence of how you came to that conclusion. You know, what I share with you guys in this is what I researched when I was training all these teenage prisoners in prison and all these black prisoners in prison. That's how I came to that conclusion. And I'm sharing it with you, you know. So make sure that when you present any counter arguments, make sure that you state where you got the data from, okay? Don't just say, you know, you're full of it or anything like that, okay? So again, thanks for watching this video. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you subscribe to it so that I can send you those 7 key components to, you know, maximum athletic power and speed, and so you can check it out, okay? Look forward to your questions and comments, and I'll see you in the next video.